Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it, and I thank the witnesses for being here today and testifying. I'll get right into the questions. Terrorist organizations have become increasingly adept at using the Internet and social media to recruit, inspire, and motivate individuals already in the United States to carry out attacks on their behalf. And this question is for Mr. Jass or Sheriff Baca, but others wish to, you're free to respond as well. One such website that has been described as key to al-Qaeda's communications was hosted by a web hosting company in my area of Tampa Bay in the state of Florida. The site has since been taken down. What are your thoughts on how to combat the use of the Internet and other technology by terrorist organizations overseas to inspire and encourage terrorist attacks in our country by those who are already here?
Congressman, that's a wonderful question, and I think it points to the fact that we have not had any type of cyber counter-jihad, if you will. Why? Because that can only be done by Muslims. So we need your support to do that, and we can do it with the right resources by countering that ideology. The Islamist narrative basically says America's against Muslims. It creates all this narrative that America is going to Iraq, to Afghanistan to convert Muslims, kill them, attack them. That's the narrative. We can present, our strategy so far has been to try to break down that propaganda. That's wrong. We need to have a forward strategy of liberty-minded, freedom-minded ideas into the Islamic consciousness. We can do that as Muslims, but we need your help to do that through creating websites, a social network. I mean, look what happened in Egypt and Tunisia. That was just simply through social networking. And that countered a lot of that wasn't Islamists that did that. Most of that was secular Muslims that wanted to take control of their own future. But when we have a government that produces a report, an after-action incident report after the Nidal Hassan incident, and the word Muslim or Islam or jihad isn't even in the whole document, you wonder why we're so paralyzed in treating this. I, as a Muslim, I need this conversation. If we're going to fix this cancer that's within the whole viable, wonderful, beautiful faith that I practice, we need to be able to talk about it. It's like trying to treat cancer without saying the word. It's not Islam, but it's jihadism, it's Islamism, it's a political entity that we can fight on the web very well. But we've been absent. We've surrendered the Constitution to the jihadists.
Sheriff?
Yes, the Sheriff's Department, as you know, in the LAPD, along with all of our federal and state partners, runs this Joint Regional Intelligence Center, which is an open source investigative arm. But we morph it up into the Joint Terrorism Task Forces when we are dealing with specific things such as cyber terrorism and these websites. We monitor them. Some points they get shut down, and other times we monitor them and continue to monitor them because it is an excellent source for what would later become an actual investigation. So there is a broader strategy that is involving all of our levels of government in this website issue.
Thank you. Next question for the entire panel.
May I answer a little bit of that?
Would you like to say something? Please, please do. Please do. Thank you.
Lately, we have been seeing the excuse that there are no recruiters for these kids. These kids are recruited by the internet, by the cyberspace. I do not believe that there's a kid that gets up in the middle of the night and just walks blindly into a computer, logs on to a jihadist or Al-Qaeda website or Al-Shabaab, and decides the next day to fly in and explode themselves. That's a very weak excuse. The radicalization process or the brainwashing process takes years. There must be somebody on the ground to exploit this kid, what he's angry is, what are his weaknesses. Like if there's no father, if there's no mentor, if they're smart, if they're weak. So the process takes forever. Internet is one of the last steps to do online courses, to educate yourselves into academic level of being gone. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Belso, you want to add something?
No, I have no comments here.
Okay, very good. My next question for the entire panel, I know I don't have a lot of time, Mr. Chairman. What demographics have demonstrated to be particularly susceptible to extremist recruiting efforts within America? To what extent are youth and universities particularly at risk for the entire panel?
Yeah, I'll jump in quick and tell you that that's why we focused our Muslim Liberty Project on young adults 15 to 30, because if you look at the study, the Pew poll showed that young Muslim adults in this country, 15 to 29, 25% thought there was maybe some justification for suicide bombing. That is not typical of the general population of Muslims. It's a demographic that we need to target, we need to look at, figure out, because their minds are being shaped, they're being pulled. As Prime Minister Cameron said recently, it's an identity problem. They're not identifying with this nation. We need to renew a discussion about what this country stands for, what our principles are, bring them in so that as Muslims they feel American, positive about this country, and then that'll inoculate them against that radicalization.
Time of the gentleman has expired. The gentleman from Louisiana, Mr. Richmond, is recognized for 5 minutes.